Very first thing, the theme of tonight is going to progress from prevention to early identification and then going into resolution. And the big topic here is going to be prevention and then of course that early identification. That's how we save lives. Some of you here in Mesa might not be aware, but our policy for self-contained breathing apparatus, and I don't want to sit here and throw policies at you, but just be aware that these policies are created to protect our members, right? Shall be used by all personnel operating in a contaminated atmosphere where toxic products are present, suspected to be present, or may be released without warning, right? There was a period where we used to do overhaul without wearing our SCBA masks. And right, that period fortunately is long past us, it's behind us. So unfortunately though, we still do see individuals in toxic environments or suspected toxic environments without wearing their SCBAs, which is why we're progressing a lot of things here in our own organization and across the valley. So rehab, every attempt should be made to limit contamination of the cold zone. You'll see a couple of slides here that we have soot and carcinogens all over us, cellulose, and we're sitting in rehab with our turnouts. And that still seems to be a going theme across the valley, unfortunately. And then of course, limiting exposure. These are some of the policies that are now being created across the valley. Limiting exposure, exposure reduction, carcinogen reduction, right? It's more than just decon now. We're talking about way more than just coming out and what we used to do, right, Vance? We used to brush off if we were lucky, right? We would get a brush out of the engineer compartment. And then I always loved the fact that we use that same brush to clean out our truck inside the cab on Saturdays. No joke, that's what we did. So, the risks are real. Cancer caused 61% of the career firefighter line of duty deaths from January 1st, 2002 to March 31st, 2007. Heart disease caused 18% of career line of duty deaths for the same period. Now these are actual line of duty deaths, and this is basically straight from IFF. Cancer caused 70% of the line of duty deaths for career firefighters in 2016. And then of course we all should be well aware of the Niosh Study. 9% increased risk for diagnosis, 14% increased risk for dying from cancer. The one thing I want to point out is if you guys go to the Niosh Study, and we're going to talk about this here in a sec. Now that's the reason I pointed out at the very bottom. This is Chicago, Philadelphia, and San Francisco fire departments. So anybody think that Chicago, Philadelphia, or San Francisco experiences 120-degree temperatures? Regularly like we do, right? So what's interesting is we'll see in here in a slide, dermal absorption, that third bullet point right there. Dermal absorption may increase with increasing concentration, right? So concentration of the chemical, ambient temperatures, under 20 degrees, skin temperatures, guess what? You just came out of a 300, 400, 500 degree fire, right? Humidity, the whole point of the turnouts is to have a moisture barrier. So that whole sweat mechanism that we have that's supposed to cool our bodies is no longer working. And then of course sweat, which is kind of a transporting medium, if you will, for the carcinogens to get into your body. So kind of interesting when you have those studies and you look at 9% risk and then 14% risk, I would argue that here in the valley we probably have a greater risk. The neck is especially vulnerable. So if you look at the presentation here, the slides, you can see that the green on the right, that is actually identified as being carcinogenic, PAHs, etc. So this is post-fire. And then you can see down here where the legs are at. They took their pants off, just like we all do, with their hands full of carcinogens, right? And so this is why we're recommending that you're wearing gloves when you're taking off your turnouts. Forehead, jawline, face are also vulnerable. The one thing I want to point out, PAHs, by the way, are highly lipid-soluble. Lipid-soluble, fat-soluble, right? So you guys also got my fantastic class, water-soluble vitamins, fat-soluble vitamins. This is lipid-soluble. So this gets into your bloodstream, by the way, it can absorb through your neck, which is one of the thinnest membranes in our entire body. Next to the skull area, one of the most absorptive, okay? We're just protected by a thin layer, what we would call a shirt fur, right, lack of better terms. It's no extra for sure, but it's one of the thinnest pieces of protection that we have, which is why you see an extreme concentration on the person's neck. So some things to consider when you guys are going into rehab and you're progressing into that warm zone that we've talked about in rehab and using those wipes. So expect turnouts, packs, hose lines, tools all be contaminated after a fire. or EMS gloves under the work and your structure gloves while you're working around equipment, while you're loading the hose, while you're cleaning the hose, while you're taking care of your tools, etc. So we've got some best practices, and this is being pushed out largely IFF, the IFC, as you see at the very bottom, California Casualty. A lot of people are taking this information, they're passing it on, and here's pretty much what it is. This is how you're going to protect yourself. Wear your PPE throughout the entire incident. Get a second hood. If for those departments, if they have an exchange program, they're light years ahead of others. We're looking into that here in Mesa as well. Something that Greg Adams has been working on diligently. Complete your gross decon using at least soap and water every single time. For those departments who haven't heard of Decon 7, again, I gave them a little shout here. They're doing some science with Baylor University, and the thought is their product is going to be able to clean and disinfect better than just surfactant-based dish soap. Make sure you're doing that on air every single time, and then doff your gear on air. So we have some videos that we can send people, so we'll send those out with everybody's sign up as well. Some of the stuff that we're doing here in Mesa that you can hopefully implement in your own department. Stay on air again while doffing the gear. That location should be 50 feet away from the rehab and 50 feet away from the pumper, the key pumper that you're using that line from. Don't allow contaminated gear in the cab of the apparatus. Change it clean clothes as soon as possible. Shower within the hour. Keep your turnouts outside the living spaces, office areas. That's pretty much a guarantee in Mesa. We don't see that. We don't see our brush pants even inside the station. Wear your SCBA if you're an engineer. And, transport turnouts in a sealed bag. So if you guys are rovers, for you guys who will be coming out, right, if you're gonna rove, you're gonna go to stations initially, you'll do your 3-4 month rotations. But if you're roving, you're doing overtime. If your turnouts are going in your personal vehicle, we're recommending that they go in a plastic sealed bag just the same way that you'd be loading them up to be sent out to be cleaned. That's one of the best ways that we can protect you and the people that are inside your vehicle. If you have a truck, great, throw it in the back of the truck. But at the very least, right, if you have dirty turnouts and you're sticking it in your turnout bag, you send them in to be washed, they come back, you stick them in that same turnout bag, just like we saw the contamination. You're just transferring contamination from the edge of your bag onto your turnouts that you thought were clean. Ensure your cab is clean as possible, and we're going to study the Baylor scientists that are here. Where are they at? With Decon 7. There's my guy, Deborah and Allison, and then my Decon 7 guys in the back here. They sampled our truck this morning, and then Decon 7 cleaned it, disinfected it, and then they sampled it again. They'll be giving us the results from that so we can identify how thorough the Decon 7 is at deconning the cab of our apparatus. So there's science being taken place right now, truly as we speak. And of course, don't use tobacco products. Here's how to protect each other. So push to update your department's policies, SOPs if you don't have them. Provide recommendations. Train your company officers. Those are the people who have the largest influence at the company level. Train your recruits, because those are the people that are coming out that can say at some point, this is what I learned here, and they can share that. Of course, get your members involved. The best way to get a buy-in is to get the people involved and have people, right? It's that democratic style of you're hearing what they have to say and then you're implementing recommendations from them. Hold one another accountable. Ensure your turnouts are stored in an NFPA compliant area. We still have turnouts across the valley being stored inside the bay, apparatus bay, and then that's where people are working out. That's where people are changing over truck, communicating with each other. So those shouldn't be stored in the bay anymore. They should be commercially washed after every fire, and then share the science behind the exposure. And what that means is share the science, because there's a ton of science out there. And of course, this is a great segue into bringing up Deborah Harris from Baylor University. She's going to share some science with you.